As I'm recording this video, we are closing in a few days to Palm Sunday, which is the beginning of Holy Week, which is the week from Palm Sunday to Easter Sunday, where we celebrate the leading up to and the happening of the Passion of Christ in Holy Thursday, Good Friday, Holy Saturday, Easter Vigil, and Easter Sunday. And this is an important time for us as Christians, probably the most important week of our faith calendar year, because we are Easter people. We are people of the hope that comes with resurrection, and remembering and celebrating the passion of Christ during this week and the hope of resurrection to follow is really the center point of our faith. And that is what this is all about, that Christ so loved that he died to save us from our sins and to bring us the hope of everlasting life. So I think it's important that during this week to do a little bit more in terms of our faith and to really dive into this week. And obviously this is going to be a different Holy Week this year because of this current situation of the world. And there might not be, or there won't be church services for you to go and you readily attend. So things are going to be different this year, but I have four things that I regularly do during Holy Week that are outside of going to a church service that I have done and hopefully will continue to do, and I want to share them with you all today. The first of which I'm kind of counting, I wanted to add it in, but it's fasting on Good Friday during the season of Lent from Ash Wednesday up until Easter Sunday. On Fridays, it's prescribed to abstain from consuming meat, and then on Ash Wednesday and on Good Friday, it is prescribed for people who are adults from 18 to like 65 or something or whatever, are prescribed to fast, which kind of means there's like iffy rules about it, but like one normal size meal plus two smaller meals that when combined are not larger than the normal size meal, but only if necessary to eat. So it's a whole thing, but the idea of fasting is that we give up something because Christ made the ultimate sacrifice on this day of Good Friday and giving up his life for us. So us giving up a little bit of food during the day is just a small thing that we can do on the day. That's kind of a prescribed thing anyway. So I have three other things that I choose to do, which I have found to help me a lot with really diving into and celebrating this Holy Week. So the first of which is praying through the Stations of the Cross. If you're unfamiliar, it is 14 stations in this kind of mini self-pilgrimage of prayer, walking through Christ's passion from the moment of his sentencing to death up until being, laid in the tomb. And it's a profound thing, and I have had the amazing opportunity. I don't know if I've talked about this in videos here, but I've definitely mentioned it in other media and elsewhere, that I have had the privilege to, at my home parish for the past 5 of the past 6 years, to partake in a living Stations of the Cross, or like a reenactment of these 14 stations. And I have had the privilege 4 of those 5 years to be acting in the place of Jesus, and the other year to be the voice of Jesus. So it's such a profound thing to just to briefly mention, to stand under the weight of that cross and then stand up against the cross and looking down. It's been a beautiful thing. And then, of course, being the voice of Christ, giving some sort of meditation on what that experience would have been like, just walking in that position, has been a beautiful thing for my faith journey. But obviously that's not something that's, just going to be readily available for everyone. But praying and meditating on the Stations of the Cross, and because I've been able to do that for the past 5 or 6 years, I don't have a great meditation to recommend for you, or a website or a place to find a really good one. But if you just type in Stations of the Cross online, maybe you do have a good one. And if you do, leave a comment down below for other people to find. But if you don't, just search Stations of the Cross to be able to find all 14 of them, and hopefully some kind of prayer meditation to walk through through that process, go through that at some point during this week, maybe on Thursday or Friday, maybe Saturday. During that window of time is probably what I would recommend. Number 2 is I usually read through the gospel, or at least the portion of the gospel that is like from the Last Supper up until Jesus' death on the cross and being laid in the tomb. It's important to hear the story, and especially if you're not going to be going to any kind of mass or church service this year, especially to read the gospel, and particularly that point. Maybe you take it upon yourself that during this Holy Week you read through the entirety of one of the gospels from beginning to end. That would be something that I think would be great to do as a week-long thing. Or if it's just on one of the later days in the week, or any day during the week, to spend some time and to just sit with that story and read it through in one of the 4 gospels, because there's 4 versions of it. I have it written down in Matthew. It begins in chapter 26. Mark begins chapter 14. Luke begins chapter 22, and John begins chapter 17. And maybe that's something as well, that like you have 4 days that on each day you read through one of the versions, because there are some particularities in each one. It's generally the same story, but to read through that story, engage in that story, because that is what we're celebrating. That's what we're remembering. And especially this year, if you're not going to have a church service or a mass to go to, read through that story. Engage with it. And the third thing that I like to do, just because maybe you as well are someone that likes a visual, it's just a different way to engage with the story. I love to watch some version of The Passion of Christ. And maybe that is the movie The Passion of the Christ by Mel Gibson, which is a very graphic, very, very visual, rated R movie. I've only seen it twice. Because I didn't like grow up watching it, but I've seen it a few times, and it is all in a different language. So that kind of enhances the experience, and just the raw. It's a powerful movie, but a potentially more, I guess, family-friendly one, or one that isn't as raw or intense, but one that is still very well done, and that I have watched every year for a number of years now, is back a number of years ago. The History Channel did a mini series that is called The Bible, and that is just the name. I think it's the Bible series, or the Bible mini series, or something, that I'm pretty sure is on Netflix, or that you can find elsewhere. But it is the entirety of the Bible, so you could, as my family usually does during this Holy Week, is to watch the entirety of the series, which is like 9 or 10 episodes or so, and just watch the entirety of the Bible, or just to at least watch the 1 or 2 episodes that are focused specifically on the Passion story, or maybe the life of Jesus and the Passion story, which is also condensed into a movie that was put out called Son of God, which is taken pretty much directly from this mini series, but it's the same thing. But either way, watching some version of the story, because it's just a different thing to see it. To read it is one thing, but seeing it visually acted out and done very well just kind of enhances the experience, and the way that you engage in the story. It almost makes it more real in a sense. So I like to do all of those 3 things: to pray through the story and meditate on the story, to read through the story, and to watch the story. It helps to engage with the reality of what we are celebrating this week, that Christ so loved us to go to such a great extent, that his death on the cross was no light matter, that it was raw, and it was painful, and it was an enormous sacrifice for us, out of love for us. And that's what we're celebrating this week, and it's something that I encourage you to meditate on, pray on, and to engage with during this Holy Week. However you can, leave comments down below and things that you like to do during this Holy Week as well, things that help you to engage with the story and remember and celebrate what Christ has done for us. And I hope that this Holy Week for you, especially during this weird time, is a way that you can engage with your faith more and find some kind of hope as we approach the hope and the resurrection of this Easter season.